Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to make one of my favorite dishes, my all-time favorite dishes, and it is my chickpea curry with some brown rice. Now this dish here is a crowd pleaser. Literally people that have never even tried curry before absolutely die over this dish. So let's get started. So you can make this with whatever grain you'd like. I'm going with the brown rice. Sometimes I make it with quinoa as well, but I'm rinsing it off here, making sure I dump all of that excess water. And then I am going to use some vegetable broth that I made, homemade. And I like to use the vegetable broth because it gives the rice just a lot more flavor. And as you see here, I'm adding some more flavor, some black pepper, some pink sea salt, and a little bit of turmeric. You can totally leave your quinoa, your rice, or whatever grain you're using plain, but I like to spice mine up. I also added a little bit of onion flakes as well, and then I turned this on high and wait for it to boil, and we move on to starting the curry. So here we have some coconut cream. I love the Trader Joe's brand because it's literally just coconut cream and water. There's nothing else in it. I don't like all the preservatives and all that weird stuff. So I'm just pouring it here in a measuring cup because it makes it easier to distribute, because we are going to be separating the coconut cream at different phases of the cooking of the curry. But before we start using the coconut cream, we are going to need to cut up an onion. Now, it doesn't have to be cut up perfect. These are all going to cook down. As you can see, I kind of just cut them in half and then in half again, and I'm just going to pour them in the pot like this. But first, our rice is boiling, so I'm going to turn this down on low now and cover it and then let it simmer for 40 minutes. This is the short grain brown rice, so it takes a lot longer to cook. Now back to our curry. So we are going to put about a few tablespoons of the coconut cream at the bottom of the pan and turn it on medium high. Now we're going to use this instead of oil because I don't use any oil in any of my dishes. So this is going to cook the onions down, get them all nice and soft. And we are also going to be adding some cumin, a tablespoon of cumin, and we are going to mix this up and let these onions cook down. It only takes about 10 minutes or so for them to cook down and start to brown a little bit. And as you can see here, the coconut cream actually has its own natural fats, so that's why I'm using that instead of pure fat like oil. And this is what it should look like when it's ready for us to move on to the next steps. So here, this is very optional. Now I like really spicy, so I used really hot red peppers, but you can use 2 jalapeños if you'd like, because it'll make it much more mild. And if jalapeños are spicy for you, then just cut out the seeds. That will make it even less spicy, but will still give you that good jalapeno flavor. I basically leave it up to you, but these are also some Thai chilies. I added some of these as well because, well, your girl likes it spicy. So next off, we have this ginger here. So ginger is really important for this dish as well. Now I use about a knob of it, about the size of my thumb. That's kind of a great way for me to measure it, and put that in the blender as well. So we're going to be making basically a paste out of all of these ingredients that we have here on the cutting board. And by the way, I know you saw me put the whole piece of ginger with the skin in the blender, and that's because it's a high-speed blender and it blends everything down so finely that I didn't need to pill it. But if your blender isn't a high-speed blender, I would recommend pilling it so that you don't have like really tough pieces in your curry. Next up, we have my favorite, garlic. Now, what is any dish without garlic? So we're going to use about 8 to 10 garlic cloves here, along with a large bunch of fresh cilantro. And we're going to put that in the blender, as well as add a little bit of that coconut cream, just enough so that it can blend thoroughly and create a nice paste. And as you can see, I'm using the tamper to really help the ingredients just blend down nice and smoothly. And I'm speeding this up a little bit so that you guys can get to the actual result. So here you see it. It's more like a paste, nice green paste. So we're going to pour it into the pot now over the onions with the cumin and mix that up. Here's a nice close-up for you. And at this point, you want to stir everything up together, and then we're going to start to add the spices. the dry spices, that is, because we already have a lot of spices already in here. But first off, we have some chili powder, pepper. Stir it up a little bit. Now each time I add some of the spices, I'll stir it up just so it doesn't start to burn. So here we have some curry powder, a salt-free curry powder. And I also added coriander here, but for some reason it didn't record. So just wanted to note that. And you just keep on stirring and we will move on to the next step from here. The recipe calls for 4 tomatoes pureed. Now, I didn't have 4 tomatoes on hand, so I improvised. I used some tomato paste and some cherry tomatoes, and I made an estimate about how much 4 tomatoes would give me in a puree. And you'll also notice I didn't rinse out the blender because I wanted to get all that extra bit of paste in there as well. So I blended it up and now I'm going to pour it in. Now after that is all poured in, you want to stir this up for a few minutes. Keep an eye on it because it can start to bubble up. So at this point you can turn down the heat as well while you're mixing all of the ingredients and allowing the spices and the tomato sauce to all blend well together. And next up we pour the garbanzo beans in there. I'm using 2 boxes of garbanzo beans. Now I like these boxes because they don't have anything else. They don't even have sea salt in them. It's literally just garbanzo beans and water. And so I poured those in there and stirred those up. I covered that pot and let that kind of simmer a little bit. And then I'm just checking on the rice here. And the rice is all done. I'm just letting some of the steam from the bottom break up a little bit. And back to the curry. So that leftover coconut cream that we've had, we're going to pour all of that into the curry mix and stir this up. And we want this to cook for about like 15 minutes, just so the garbanzo beans, the paste, the tomato, and everything blends well together. And this is also where I add the sea salt. So go ahead and blend all of that up, stir it up, and allow this to kind of cook. And you'll notice it'll start to thicken as well at this point. So you'll notice this next step is totally optional. I love to add extra veggies in my curry just because it just makes it a little bit more hearty and thick. And so I added some roasted vegetables. I used some leftover squash and broccoli. And this is a great way to kind of add some vegetables that maybe you have left over in your fridge. And I just mixed that all up and I let that cook together and simmer down. And as you can see, look how thick it got. And for one of the last steps, we are adding the garam masala. So this is just something that you always add towards the end when it's pretty much done cooking. And stir this up and now it is ready to serve, you guys. That is it. Got our rice and let's start plating. And as you can see here, our rice has a beautiful yellow color, and that's from the turmeric and some of the spices that I added while the rice was cooking. So I guess I can go into why I started making this dish. Now, when I was living in Bali back in 2019, I was exposed to some amazing vegan Balinese dishes, and I had tried some vegan curry at this restaurant and it was so good. It blew me away. And I had never really tried a lot of curry. I never really even was exposed to it, to be honest. And I was just like, I have to replicate this dish. I have to figure it out. So here we are. And I tried multiple different recipes and kind of made my own from it. And here we are adding some lime because you have to add lime. Like, this is a very important step. The lime adds some type of acidity to the coconut and the tomato, and it just tastes so well together. So I also added some cilantro on the top as a garnish, but this also brings it to the next level as well. So I totally suggest that. And that's it, you guys. We are all done. And I just wanted to note, if you are not a curry person, you still have to try this dish because I didn't know that I was one until I became turned out. And it doesn't really taste too coconutty either. Like, you don't taste a lot of coconut. It's just these amazing bursts of flavors. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy and let me know if you make this dish. And don't forget, the full recipe is in the description below if you forgot anything. And I will see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.